What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who classic review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 8th Doctor Paul McGann story, the movie. It doesn't really have a name other than the movie. It's the 8th Doctor's only proper full story, and it's definitely something interesting. I mean, this was in between, classic Doctor Who had finished, 7 years earlier. In 1989, this was brought out in 1996. It's in between the end of Classic Who and the start of New Who. So it's definitely an interesting little thing. However, it was much more American. I think that I'm not 100% sure of all the details, but there was a more American focus to it. I'm not sure if it was Canada or America. They helped out a lot with the production of this. It was set in America and everything, I'm pretty sure, as well. So, a lot of American actors as well in it. So it felt very, very different to normal Doctor Who that we were used to. And after not having Doctor Who for 7 years, people were excited. However, I don't think as a whole they were that invested in this. But anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Anyway, this is Doctor Who, the movie, by Matthew Jacobs. The Doctor is returning home to Gallifrey with the remains of his arch nemesis, the Master. Forced off course, the TARDIS arrives in San Francisco on New Year's Eve 1999, where the Doctor is critically wounded in a gangland gun battle. At the local hospital, Dr. Grace Holloway fights and fails to save his life. Later, in the morgue, the Doctor wakes up a new man, but he is not the only one. The Master has also found himself a new body. As the clock counts down to the start of the new millennium, can the Doctor stop his oldest enemy destroying all life on Earth? So that's the back of the DVD for Doctor Who, the movie. And, I think it's a pretty nice little thing. I mean, this was made in 1996, but it was based in 1999. So I like how they didn't just base it in present day. It was at least a little bit ahead. And I thought that was pretty cool, have a big movie and have a big moment in the Earth's history, which hasn't even happened yet at this current point in time. So, I think that's pretty good. It's nice that they didn't just have it in present day. They actually did go slightly into the future with it, so that's interesting. But anyway, first of all, we're going to start off by looking at the cast. So we start, of course, with Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor. This is probably going to be the only time I ever talk about the 8th Doctor in these classic reviews anyway. The only other time I would talk about him in an episode sense is if we talk about Night of the Doctor. That's not going to be a classic review, and I don't plan on doing that anytime soon. So really, this is the only time I've got to talk about him, so we're gonna talk about him a little bit here. I think Paul McGann is a really good Doctor. I would have loved to see more of him. He's got that charm about him, a charm that we hadn't really seen in Doctor Who up to this point. They were all more kind of grandfatherly figures, really all of the classic Doctors, maybe apart from Peter Davis and the 5th Doctor, but even him, he had kind of this older nature about him, whereas Paul McGann feels like this young, sprightly, and more romantic Doctor, which is kind of more what we're used to in New Who, really bridging the gap between the two, which some people can say is a good thing, some people might say is a bad thing, but I think Paul McGann as a whole, really, let's be honest, he's the saving grace of this movie. He is the best thing in this movie by far, and yeah, I'm really sad that we didn't get to see too much more of him as the Doctor. We've also got Sylvester McCoy as the 7th Doctor. He does appear at the start of the episode and is in it for a good portion of the episode, to be honest. I say episode, it's a movie, it's a full story. Sylvester McCoy's amazing. He fits back into the role really, really good. We will get into that in a bit, but once again, I've talked about him before. Sylvester McCoy is a great Doctor. Daphne Ashbrook as Grace Holloway. We have the companion of the story. Grace is a companion, I guess. She's a companion. She doesn't really travel at all. She might for a split second, I can't really remember, but she's just kind of there. She's alright. There's not really much I can say about her. We don't get to know her too much because we literally know her for the hour and 20 minutes that this episode is. And that's it. That's all we get to know of her. So, she's alright, I suppose. Then we have Yi Ji So as Chang Li. Once again, he's alright. He's just a character that's kind of there. He's not that interesting. He does his job. There's not really much else to say. And then the only other character I want to talk about is, of course, Eric Roberts as the Master. Now, I'm going to get into this later. But Eric Roberts... I'm not saying that Eric Roberts is a bad actor. I don't know what else he's been in, I don't know what he does, but as the Master, he doesn't work. He doesn't work at all. First of all, fairly sure he's American, which I don't have a problem with Americans, but when you start putting it into Doctor Who, it just doesn't really work. Doctor Who's a British show, so having such an American aspect, having such a big character be an American, I mean, God, if they made the Doctor American, that would have pissed a lot of people off. Luckily they didn't do that. They did make the Master American though, and for me, doesn't work. And Eric Roberts just doesn't, he just doesn't feel like the Master at all compared to, you know, Ainley, Beavers, Delgado that we had before. So yeah, he's not very good, but we will get into that later on. Alright, so let's start off with some good points, starting off with a few things we've already talked about. First of all, Sylvester McCoy is great in his return. Yeah, like I said, he's really, really good. He doesn't say too much, but he has some pretty funny moments, you know, especially when he's in the hospital being operated on, and he kind of wakes up and he's shouting around. He fits back into the role straight away, and I mean, Sylvester McCoy was very, very good as the 7th Doctor. Have only done one review on him so far, but yeah, really, really good. It's really nice to see him back. Also, Paul McGann is really, really good entering the role. Like I said before, yeah, Paul McGann would have loved to see more of his Doctor. So thankfully, we did get more of him in Night of the Doctor. However, you know, even so, he's done a lot of Big Finish, which I haven't listened to because I haven't listened to any Big Finish, but would have been really good to see more of him on screen. However, for what we got of him here, he was definitely very good. Because the budget is higher and it's more modern than Classic Who, there are some impressive scenes. Yeah, I mean, Classic Doctor Who has always been known for being a bit shoddy. They didn't have much of a budget, and you know, in a lot of ways, that's kind of the feel of the show. That's one of the good things about the show, that it was a little bit crap in places. It was a bit shoddy. It did feel cheap, and that's a good thing about Doctor Who. And I think one of the things that this movie kind of, you know, doesn't do well in a way is that it makes Doctor Who feel too high budget. However, in some ways it is good because we do get some amazing scenes. The direction's really, really good. Things just look amazing, and although I definitely it's not kind of what we were used to, I still do think there are some really good moments in there, some really good scenes. There's a few like chase scenes and stuff that were really fun and really impressive to look at. Yeah, just it was a nice change. The Doctor and the Master's final battle, that was pretty fun. Not really too much to say, but their final little battle at the end with the Eye of Harmony thingamajiggy, yeah, that was pretty awesome. The Doctor hanging the TARDIS, no, banging. The Doctor banging the TARDIS to make it work. That was pretty funny when he was getting ready to go to fly off, and then it kind of conked out and he just whacked it and it kept going again. No, just a nice little funny moment there that I thought was pretty cool. And altogether, the TARDIS interior, just in general, I really like this TARDIS interior. It feels so much bigger than the classic TARDIS, a lot more like modern TARDISes, and I mean, to be honest, I think this one is the biggest feeling TARDIS we've ever had, even to this day. It feels so grand with the library, and just the console room just looks so much bigger and bolder than anything we'd seen before, and to be honest, to anything we've seen now. This TARDIS, I really do love the TARDIS. I wish we saw more of the TARDIS as well. The Doctor, Paul McGann as the Doctor, and this TARDIS were the saving graces for this story, because, yeah, that TARDIS just looked absolutely amazing. Now we have to talk about some bad things, starting off with everything feels too American. Now I know I'm going to have people, I mean, if you're a Doctor Who fan, even if you're an American Doctor Who fan, I personally think you would understand what I mean by this. If you're just somebody watching this video, you probably think, and you're American, you're probably thinking, oh, look at this guy, this British guy, shitting on Americans. No, I love Americans. You guys make some great TV shows. You guys make some of the best TV shows. However, Doctor Who doesn't deserve to be American, I suppose. It can't be American. It shouldn't be American. It's the most British of shows, and it feels way too American in this. I had this in Torchwood Miracle Day, was very American based, and there was a lot of American actors in that, and I think that isn't as good as well because it just feels too American. It feels like an American crime show, whereas this feels like an American action movie, and that's not how Doctor Who should feel. That's not how it should feel at all, and it's really it's one of the biggest things that lets this movie down. The Doctor is half human? Yeah, what was all that about? There was the whole thing about, oh, the Doctor's half human. At first I thought it was a bit of a joke, but then they kind of brought it back again. He's like, yeah, I'm half human. It's like, hold on, you're half human? Sorry? The Doctor's half human? Has that ever been brought up again? I don't think so. I think they kind of realised, especially with New Who, because I mean, as far as I know, Classic Who never mentioned that the Doctor was half human, and New Who definitely hasn't brought that up, but I think I know why, because it's such a stupid thing. Why should the Doctor be half human? Why? What a stupid thing. If they were actually trying to be serious with that in this movie, then that is just ridiculous, because it doesn't make sense, it doesn't work, and it's just silly. Eric Roberts isn't a good master, like I said before. I don't know what it is, he just doesn't work. He just doesn't work as the master. I don't know if it's the way he's playing it. He feels a bit too camp, and oh god, there's one bit in the TARDIS where he seems really strange. And I mean, I know the master is a strange, weird character, but Eric Roberts just doesn't work. Like I said, I don't know if it's Eric Roberts, if it's the writing. I personally think it's a bit of both. I don't think it's just the writing. I think it is a bit of Eric Roberts as well. And also just having an American master doesn't work for me either. Yeah, he's definitely the worst master. And then finally, the effects used when the master is transforming are awful. They are terrible. Towards the end, just before the fight with the Doctor and the Master, he's kind of doing this weird transforming thing, and god, his face is like morphing in weird ways, and it's awful. It looks absolutely terrible. That wouldn't look good in Classic Who. This is 1996. We're still not, you know, way up with the technology yet, but it should be better than that. It looks really, really awful, and I don't like it. Yeah, kind of cringed a bit of that scene. So, what were my thoughts on the Doctor Who movie? Well, I mean, it's nice that we had it. It's nice that we had it. I'm glad that we had Paul McGann as the Doctor. I'm glad that we got a few of the things that we did. However, it wasn't anything amazing. Now, ranking this is quite difficult. I kind of got to rank it in the same way that I have been for the episodes, but because it's a movie, I mean, really, it's only about as long as a 4-part story, really, of Classic Who, which is kind of the length that I think is best for the classic episodes. About an hour and 20, an hour and a half long. I'm going to give the movie a 6 out of 10. Honestly, I think giving it a 6 out of 10 is actually being pretty generous. With the flaws that this has, with it feeling way too American, with the Doctor apparently being half human, which doesn't make any sense, with Eric Roberts being an absolutely terrible master, and with some pretty shoddy effects, and just the whole feel of it, I think a 6 out of 10 is pretty reasonable. The Paul McGann as the Doctor really wins this one over, and the TARDIS interior, and just the feel in some other places of this episode, it does win it over a bit, but I still can't give it any more than a 6 out of 10. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.